Before I close, I want to warn the American people who are watching at home. You may hear lies and smears in this hearing that'll challenge my loyalty to and my love for our country. Those who oppose my nomination imply that I am loyal to something or someone other than God, my own conscience, and the Constitution of the United States, accusing me of being Trump's puppet, Putin's puppet, Assad's puppet, a guru's puppet, Modi's puppet, not recognizing the absurdity of simultaneously being the puppet of 5 different puppet masters. The same tactic was used against President Trump and failed. The American people elected President Trump with a decisive victory and mandate for change. The fact is, what truly unsettles my political opponents is I refuse to be their puppet.
This is my video update on this Thursday afternoon, January the 30th, coming to you from Nicosia, Cyprus. Let's talk about some news. And let's start things off with, unfortunately, with the tragedy that happened in Washington, D.C., where we had an airplane crash, actually collide with a Black Hawk helicopter, and then crashing into the Potomac River. The reports are that there are no survivors from the airplane or from the helicopter. The airplane was carrying, some of the passengers on the airplane were attending in Wichita. They were taking part in a figure skating competition, a figure skating championship. And there were many American and Russian figure skaters on this airplane, along with their coaches and their families. Some professional skaters, some teenagers, junior competitors and their coaches. And there were 60 plus, from what I understand, 60 plus with crew members, people on board the airplane. So a real tragedy in DC. How it collided with a helicopter, what happened, I don't know. We're going to have to wait for an investigation. Trump posted on Truth Social, the airplane was on a perfect and routine line of approach to the airport. The helicopter was going straight at the airplane for an extended period of time. It is a clear night. The lights on the plane were blazing. Why didn't the helicopter go up or down or turn? Why didn't the control tower tell the helicopter what to do instead of asking if they saw the plane? This is a bad situation that looks like it should have been prevented. Not good. Yeah, the airplane was on its descent. From what I understand, it was about a minute or two away from landing. But the tower changed its runway, and then it tried to get in contact with the Black Hawk helicopter. I don't know, and then it just collided into the airplane as it was on its descent. Very romantic cafe. So let's shift gears. A terrible tragedy in the United States, in D.C., and our thoughts and prayers to those on board, to the families of everyone that is suffering through this tragedy. So let's shift gears and talk about Project Ukraine, and let's discuss the foreign aid pause, the 90-day stop in foreign aid, which is starting to really affect Ukraine media. Yeah, we're only a couple of days into the foreign aid pause, the freeze that's going to last for 90 days, according to the Trump White House and the US State Department. But we're already seeing the Ukraine media starting to complain. They are starting to complain. If they don't get money soon, then media outlets in Ukraine risk shutting down. It looks like the revenue model for Ukraine media outlets was pretty simple and straightforward. Their revenue model, their revenue stream was money from the United States of America. That was it. That's how they paid for operations, for overhead, salaries. They were dependent 100% on money from the United States, money from the US State Department. And now that there is a pause, a stop in the money flowing to Ukraine and flowing to the media outlets, they may be shutting down, and they're begging the Ukraine government to do something in the interim to give them money. They're really begging the EU to give them money. And they're going to approach the Trump administration to try and get this ban lifted, get the money flowing back to the independent media outlets of Ukraine, right? That's what they've been telling us all this time. These media outlets in Ukraine that are reporting the news and reporting all about the conflict and giving their take on what is happening with the war in Ukraine. These are independent media outlets. Independent, unlike the Russian media, RT and Sputnik and TASS, state-run and sponsored Kremlin propaganda. The Ukraine media is independent, free and fair and democratic and independent media. That's 100% funded by the US State Department. Yeah, man. I've got a real problem with this. Because they never disclosed any of this, huh? The Ukraine media, they didn't disclose that they're getting their money from the US State Department, from the United States. They absolutely should have disclosed this. I would actually say they had to disclose this. They have to disclose this. All the readers should have known that they're getting their money. At the end of the day, it is coming from the US. So that a reader understands this. They understand that when they're reading all of these Ukraine outlets, they understand where the funding is coming from. Because wherever the funding is coming from, at the end of the day, that is who has editorial control. That is who has the last say on what is getting published and what is not getting published. But they never disclosed this, did they? Nope. But now it's all coming out. It is all coming out that for 4 years, all of these media outlets, probably even further back than 4 years, they have been getting funding completely from the US. All of their revenue is from the United States, from USAID, from the State Department, from Newland and Blinken. They were the ones that were funding the independent Ukraine media landscape. Which means that all of the information from the war was coming from the US State Department, right? At the end of the day, that's an assumption. That's a very valid assumption that we can all make. That every story, all the information, the casualties, the casualty numbers, the situation on the front line, the Russian economy in collapse, the shovels, the running out of weapons, the washing machine chips, the Putin regime change, all of it, all of the news that was coming from from Ukraine, originating from the independent Ukrainian media, the great Kherson counteroffensive, the great Kharkiv counteroffensive. It was coming from the U.S. State Department, or at least it was being run through the U.S. State Department of the United States. I mean, that's an assumption that we can make. Let's see, Ukraine media in funding crisis after U.S. cash cut. Washington previously funded the vast majority of independent news outlets in the country, according to a Kiev-based NGO. Nearly all Ukrainian media depends on U.S. cash, NGO chief. 90% of outlets rely on foreign aid, and over 80% have been funded by USAID, the head of Ukraine's Institute of Mass Information says. The head of Ukraine's Institute of Mass Information is on record saying that 90% of outlets in Ukraine rely on foreign aid, and over 80% funded by USAID. Unfortunately, almost 90% of Ukrainian media outlets were surviving on grants, the head of media-focused NGO told Hromadske Radio. Romanyuk described Trump's decision as a threat to democracy. It's a threat to democracy in Ukraine, claiming that oligarchs may seize control of a media landscape weakened by the halt in American funding. Irina Vereshchuk, the deputy chief of staff to Ukrainian leader Zelensky, has called the suspension of U.S. non-military assistance unexpected and unpleasant. I bet it is unpleasant. Kiev will hold consultations with our American partners to resume the flow of money while implementing measures to stabilize the situation in the interim, she promised on Tuesday. Ukrainian media ask for donations after Trump halts U.S. aid grant programs. They're asking for donations. They're asking for donations. Zelensky's administration, they're going to speak with Trump to try and get the money flowing. To try and get the money flowing back to the media. Yeah, I don't think that's going to go over too well with the Trump administration. I don't even know if they can do it now that they've put a pause in the funding, and it's been revealed that the United States has been paying for all of the overhead and all of the expenses of Ukraine media outlets. If you're the Trump administration, how do you go to the American people and say, yeah, after 90 days, we've decided to resume paying for Ukraine media companies? How do you take that to the American people? I don't know. I don't think you can. I don't think you can put this genie back in the bottle. Yeah, it's a threat to democracy, according to Ukraine's Institute of Mass Information. The head of Ukraine's Institute of Mass Information, it is a threat to democracy to have this money pulled. Okay. It's a threat to democracy. I don't know how that works. I would say that this is actually democracy in action, right? The American people voted. They said no more money to Project Ukraine. There you go. This is actually democracy in action, not a threat to democracy. Anyway, that's the statement there from this NGO official. And let's move on. And let's talk about Mark Rutte's call with the new Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. Rutte posted on X, great first call with Secretary Defense Hegseth. To deter and defend, we have to stay strong, united, and ready. And that's what NATO is doing every day. Looking forward to working with you to further ramp up defense spending and defense production for a strong alliance. Looking forward to ramping up defense spending. Mark Rutte to Pete Hegseth. How are NATO members going to get to that 5% of GDP to NATO, to the military-industrial complex. How are they going to ramp up, Mr. Rutte? Well, according to Mark Rutte, what NATO member states are going to do is they are going to take money from pensions and from social spending and social services, and they're going to give that money to the MIC. That is what Mark Rutte is looking forward to when he says looking forward to ramping up defense spending. Whatever you tell us, Mr. Hegseth, United States of America, whatever you want, we will deliver. We will do it. Just tell us, we will do it. Just keep the money flowing. You got to keep the money flowing. Keep the spice. Keep the spice flowing. So we have the EU 16th sanctions package ready to go. It will be unveiled February 22nd to coincide with the 4th anniversary of the special military operations, because for the collective West and for the European Union, optics matter. Media and optics is the most important thing. So they want to unveil this on February 22nd. But we already have a very clear picture as to what the 16th sanctions package is going to include. And this sanctions package, this is the one, everybody, this is the one. This is the sanctions package that will finally, my God, finally bring down the Putin. Finally, Ursula will emerge victorious. Queen Ursula will claim victory with the 16th sanctions package, which will destroy and dismantle Putin's war machine. Because in the 16th sanctions package, they will put a ban on Xbox consoles and PlayStation. Can't forget that. What about Nintendo? What about Nintendo, man? Is Nintendo okay? Is Nintendo still a thing? I don't know. I don't even know if Nintendo's still a thing. But PlayStation and Xbox, they're in this sanctions package. No joke. They really are in this sanctions package. I am not joking around here. You know what else is in the sanctions package? A ban on aluminum exports, a ban on fertilizers, and the EU has identified another 74 new Shadow Fleet vessels. Wow, they've identified 74 new Shadow Fleet vessels. How do you find these Shadow Fleet vessels? Must be really difficult to find them, huh? Because they're shadow ghost ships. Wonder if they have a special shadow ghost detector, a ghost radar, to identify the Shadow Fleet. Anyway, 74 Shadow Fleet vessels will also be targeted by the 16th EU sanctions package. You know what will not be in the sanctions package? LNG. LNG will not be in the sanctions package. The proposal will not include a blanket prohibition of LNG imports, as EU hawks have been urging. Instead, it would only stop Russian LNG from going to EU terminals not connected to the EU's gas system, a restriction that won't affect the majority of LNG imports, especially Germany. They will figure out workarounds for these very, very minor restrictions on LNG. They will figure out the workarounds, especially Germany, and they will get Russian LNG. They will claim it's not Russian LNG, but they will get Russian LNG into Europe because they have no choice. There are actually reports which claim that Germany is importing more Russian LNG than US LNG, though they will never admit that it's Russian LNG. Nope, they will never admit it. These are the hawks. These are the hawks that want to ramp up the sanctions. Sanction it all. The fertilizer, the aluminum, the Xbox consoles, the PlayStation, the Game Boys, the Nintendos, the Nintendo Wiis. I don't know, the Ataris. Sanction it all. Sanction everything. Those are the hawks. There are other forces in Europe that are now saying, you know what? Sanctions, they're not working. They failed. We're 16 sanctions packages into this thing, and Russia is getting stronger, and we're getting pummeled. We're getting much, much weaker. We need to reverse course. And I'm not talking about Orban and Fico, because the Financial Times, they put out an article with the title, EU debates return of Russian gas as part of Ukraine peace deal. Advocates say reopening pipelines could help settlement with Moscow and cut energy costs. And they're hinting at German forces that are now saying it is time to reverse our course. We got to think about getting some Russian gas through those pipelines again, because as Germany, we're getting crushed. And so these forces in Germany, we're not told, we're not given any information as to who these people are, but you got to imagine these are very powerful forces, business-oriented forces who are losing a lot of money. And they are telling the government in Germany, enough of this, it's not worked. It has not worked, it has failed miserably, catastrophically. It's time to reopen the pipelines. I also would take a guess and say that you have political forces in the CDU, CSU, which are saying, you know, we've tried everything to try and derail the AfD and to stop their momentum. We have elections coming up in a couple of weeks, and we are sinking and the AfD is rising, and we've tried everything to try and stop their momentum. What we're going to have to do is we're going to have to try to fix the economy, try to get things back on track. That way we can take away one of the AfD's main talking points, one of their main campaign points. So the way to do this is to talk again about cheap Russian energy, which will help the German economy. So I imagine that's what's going on here. Either way, it's an interesting article from the Financial Times, an interesting admission of failure from various EU forces. And this article from the Financial Times was published the day after we got news that Denmark has granted a permit to Gazprom so that they can maintain and fix the one available Nord Stream pipeline. I don't know what the condition is of the other pipeline that was destroyed. I believe you're looking at 4 pipelines. And there's one pipeline, the totality of Nord Stream, I believe, is 4 pipelines. And there's one pipeline, maybe it's 2, I don't know. But one pipeline can still work. But it has to be maintained, because it's starting to rot, to decay. The salt water, the seawater is starting to eat away at this pipeline, from what I understand, and it needs maintenance. And the permit has been given to Gazprom. Denmark gave a permit to Gazprom so that they can go in and take a look around, see what's going on, and to fix whatever they need to fix in the one pipeline, and then also see how the rest of Nord Stream is looking. Coincidence that this permit was given, and then the next day you have the Financial Times talking about restarting Nord Stream? Not a coincidence, not at all. So Bloomberg, they posted an article talking about the spheres of influence under a Trump administration, spheres of influence, the pitfalls and the dangers of a world with spheres of influence. That is what Bloomberg posted. Let me pull up this article with the title, Trump is like Putin and Xi, an imperialist. Peer into the minds of the American, Chinese, and Russian presidents, that you won't see clashing ideologies, but a common mindset. That's scary. Is it as scary as the Russian shadow fleet? I don't know. But it sounds pretty scary from Bloomberg. They're all imperialists. According to this article, Trump, Putin, and Xi, they want to sit down and carve up the world, carve it up like a steak, like a piece of pie, like a piece of apple pie. They want to carve it all up. Those imperialists, I can't stand those imperialists. I like the neoliberal, human rights, international rules-based order leaders like Blinken and Ursula and Bidenopolis. They were not imperialists. No, no, no. They followed the rules-based order. The rules-based order. That's what they followed. And now we got these three imperialists who are going to carve up the world, according to Bloomberg. They must be stopped. They must be stopped. Oh, man. Anyway, let's get into a clown world. I don't really have much to say about this Bloomberg article. It's the same old nonsense that you expect to come from Bloomberg. They're panicking because they had it really good under Biden, really, really good, and under Obama, and under Clinton, and under Bush. And you can even make the argument under the first Trump presidency as well. But now things seem to be changing. The world has changed. It's a multipolar world. It's a spheres of influence world. They don't like it. They don't like it. Their business model is crashing down. It's crashing down all around them, and they're not happy. Let's do some clown worlds, and we can wrap this video up. Did you guys catch the confirmation of RFK Jr. for health? Is it Health and Human Services, HHS Secretary? Man, I hope he gets it. I hope it gets confirmed. But they are going hard against him. Elizabeth Warren had a freak out. She lost it. Bernie Sanders, he lost it. I can't play the video because last time I played a video and I talked about jabs, I got taken down for a week. I was not allowed to upload to YouTube for a week, so I won't play the video. But Bernie Sanders, he was yelling at RFK Jr. about jabs and talking about how RFK Jr. has a website which helps fund one of his foundations or one of his organizations, and they sell onesies. They sell onesies, onesies. And they say something about jabs, and this really, really upset Bernie Sanders. Really upset Bernie Sanders. He started screaming at RFK, "Are you supportive of the onesies? Are you supportive of the onesies? Are you supportive of the onesies? Are you supportive of the onesies? You can't handle the truth." I want the truth. I want the onesies. You can't handle the onesies. It was like A Few Good Men. It really was. I was expecting RFK Jr. to say, "I want the truth. You can't handle the truth." They're onesies, man. Anyway, I don't know what I'm saying. It's late afternoon. I need a coffee. I'm losing my mind. Yes, I am losing my mind, everybody. Oh boy, France, strategic ambiguity. That's right. We got some more Macron strategic ambiguity going on because the French foreign minister, I don't know the guy's name. I don't care what his name is. Who cares? Whatever. Mr. Pierre something. I don't know. I don't know what his name is. Anyway, he said that France may deploy troops to Greenland in order to take on the U.S. That's right. He doesn't think that the Trump administration is going to deploy military to Greenland. He doesn't think this is going to happen. But But if Trump gets any funny ideas to deploy military to Greenland, then according to the foreign minister of France, the French military is going to be right there waiting to take on the Americans. That's right. France could deploy troops to Greenland. French Foreign Minister Jean-Noël Barrot, that's the guy's name, has said his country would be willing to deploy troops to Greenland amid a spat between Denmark and the US over the Arctic island. All right, let's see what Mr. Barrot said in this interview. Let's see what he said. In an interview with France's Sud Radio on Tuesday, Barrot revealed that Paris had started discussing troop deployment with Denmark, noting, however, that Copenhagen had no desire for such a mission at present. If Denmark calls for help, France will be there, the diplomat vowed, insisting that the European borders are sovereign, whether it's north, south, east, and west, and nobody can allow themselves to mess around with our borders. That's right, these are EU borders, and nobody, not even the United States, not even the Trump administration, can mess around with EU borders. If they mess around with EU borders, they're going to have to face off against Macron's military juggernaut. Strategic ambiguity. We got troops in Ukraine, or we may deploy troops to Ukraine. We may deploy troops to Greenland. You just don't know. You just don't know with our strategic ambiguity. We may deploy troops to, I don't know, to the UK, maybe. I don't know. Maybe in Mexico. Maybe. Strategic ambiguity. I'll tell you one place that French troops are not being welcomed, and that's in Africa. They've been kicked out of there. I guess they have to go somewhere. Anyway, that's that clown world. What else? The Zuckbot is going to pay Trump $25 million to settle the censorship lawsuit. Oh, poor Zuckbot. That's like a coffee to Zuckerberg. $25 million is like a coffee to Zuckerberg. But he's going to pay Trump. It's going to go to the Trump library, the library fund. And this is to settle the fact that Facebook censored a US president. They deplatformed the US president. So now Zuckerberg is going to have to pay. He got off easy, man. $25 million? Really, Trump? You should have added another couple zeros to that. I don't know. It seems like they got off real easy there. Anyway, we have that story. And finally, we are getting reports that the Chinese AI DeepSeek that shocked the world is now being blocked on Apple and Google app stores in Italy. Oh, Maloney. Georgia Maloney. Anyway, that's fair competition right there, huh? Just block them. Don't compete with them. Block them. Anyway, that's the video, everybody. TheDuran.locals.com. We are on Rumble, ODYSEE, BitChute, Telegram, Rockfin, and X. Go to the Duran shop, pick up some merch like what I am wearing in this video update. The link is in the description box down below. Take care.